What's up, you guys? This is Michael with the Proper Form Podcast. Excited for our guest today. Kind of really crazy. Chris and I have known each other for, golly, maybe 7 or 8 years. We'll tie into that in just a little bit. But Chris Barta with Tactical Fleet, but now possibly another automotive pursuit. Could you share a little bit of that here to start?
Yeah,
Don't go too deep.
just left Tactical Fleet
Okay.
3 months ago, working on this new pursuit. It's called Design Auto.
Okay.
It's going to be a online platform for cars 100 grand and up.
Okay. Awesome. We're going to stop there.
All right.
That's going to be our teaser for you guys. But to go back, Chris and I actually met through, I guess, really my time at Pogue Construction.
Yep.
and kind of client, I guess, of some car purchases. Ben Pogue, I was the corporate trainer there. And then I ended up, respectfully moving on to some other adventures through business and career. And then I ended up opening up my own concierge personal training studio. And I looked up to you. I respected you as an entrepreneur and just a go-getter. And I ended up going to Chris's place at the time, Tactical Fleet. This was probably almost over 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, we opened that almost 7 years ago.
That first Addison
that
location.
was probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
And I just was like, man, I literally just walked in and was like, dude, I look up to what you're doing and what you have done and kind of how you're disrupting the car automotive space. I'm trying to kind of do that with this high-end concierge personal training experience. I also am kind of building home gyms. That was the beginning of like more of the intentional birth of me enjoying the design and like the build process for clients and home gyms. And I was like, man, if I could ever add value to you or your team. And then you called me like 8 months later and trusted me to build out your home gym.
For sure, which we love.
So that's awesome. So even just a little bit of that of just like, man, you never know what can happen from conversations. And even I just feel honored to have you here
thanks,
on this
Appreciate
podcast today. Yeah. And again, you are continuing to disrupt the automotive space. And I'm excited to learn more about this new pursuit. But also, like, it hasn't happened overnight. Like, you haven't been an overnight success.
No,
You've been
15 years.
an overnight success over 15 years. And so could you discuss a little bit of how did you get started in the automotive space?
Yeah.
And then how did your vision and your entrepreneurial mind just like expand to?
Sure. Yeah. So my whole background's marketing. I went to Arizona State for marketing, got my MBA from SMU for brand management. And I always thought advertising and marketing was really, really cool. So that was kind of like my bread and butter. So my first jobs out of college were like, what would you even call them? Marketing jobs, advertising jobs.
Yeah.
Ad agencies is where I was working.
Interesting.
And then I worked for an ad agency in Chicago, moved back to Dallas to get my MBA at SMU, worked for a couple ad agencies around here. And then I was like, I'm going to go to the client side, like work for like a PepsiCo or a Frito-Lay was kind of my big grand goal. And I got a job with Jim Beam Global Spirits and Wine in 2009, right?
Okay.
And I was like, this is it. It's creative. This is my spot. And then I got laid off like 3 months later. And this was housing crunch. You know what I mean? There was no jobs.
This was like 09.
This is the end of 2009.
Yeah.
And I just got my MBA and I just got this job. And I was like, oh, this is it. I'm set. Work from home, stock options. This is what I'm going to do. And then like I got laid off. And my wife, who was also in advertising, her boss's husband was the general manager of Bentley Dallas. And kind of through the grapevine, they were like, see if he wants to sell cars. So my wife comes home. She's like, do you want to sell cars? And I was like, oh, cars, bro. I was like, dude, I thought I was so much better than that.
Yeah.
I'm not a car guy. I wasn't a car guy. And my family was like, my dad was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, and like we drove like, minivans and Buick LeSabres and stuff like that. So I go interview, this was Park Place in Dallas, and there's a Bugatti sitting there and like a drop head Phantom. And I'm like, what do these guys make? He's like, my worst guy makes 100 grand, my best guy makes 200 grand. I was like, well, shit. I'll try that. You know what I mean? So he's like, we're not looking for sales. We actually want you to go write service in the service department. And I was like, dude, I'm not a car salesman. I'm definitely not writing service. So I was like, I don't know if I can do. I don't know if I'm the guy for that.
Yeah.
Then like a month later, he calls me. He's like, hey, we have a sales job if you want to come sell cars. And I was like, I do. This was January 2010. All right.
Okay.
And I took that job as like, this will be my job till I find the job I really want, right? I'll sit there and send out resumes. And then I like got good at it because it's a different sell. It's the high end stuff. So like, it's relationships. It's like networking. You know, you meet a guy and you can sell him 2 cars at the same time. You can sell him a car today. You can sell him a car a week later. It's not like they lease a car and then they come back in 5 years and lease another one. And it's just different. So like I got good at it, and it was all my follow-up. And I knew your follow-up's awesome too. And I just followed up with people all day. Like I knew if I knew they had money, and my threshold was like, if it had $1 million house on their driver's license, I would just call them forever. And this was also 2010 where $1 million house was like a big deal. Not like now. So that's what I did, man. And then like, you know, I got really good at it. My business partner and I were in the same sales training class in 2010. He was at Porsche. I was at Bentley. So I kind of became the Bentley Rolls guy and he was the Porsche guy. And then
did you really even like realize as you were in advertising marketing post-college before you got laid off, like you kind of had these gifts, if you want to call them, on like the relationships and the networking? Like, did you see that a part of yourself?
No idea. It was like, that was news to me. Cause like, you know, I didn't consider myself a sales guy, but it was more like, you know, just follow up in relationship and like not saying too much and just kind of giving a little feedback here and there. And, you know, for the most part, they're all smarter than you are and they all know more about the cars than you. You're just kind of guiding them. And then people just like it when you're like, hey, what about this? Or, hey, what about that? And that's just what I did. And then as time went by, you know, one day I was trying to sell this guy a Rolls Royce, who's a big real estate guy. And he was home. This was over a summer. He was home because he was having surgery on his foot. So I was just bringing cars by, like, what about this? And what about this?
Literally bringing it to him.
To his house. And he would come look in the garage and be like, no, it's too big. No, too small. And then I was leaving there one day and he's like, hey, have you ever thought about getting into real estate? And I was like, what do those guys make? He's like, my worst guy makes 300. My best guy makes over $1 million. I was like, I'll try that. So long story short, I ended up going into commercial real estate for 1.5 years, not with that guy, but another guy. And when I was in that business, which is commercial, cold calling, door to door, talking with business owners, everyone was calling me for cars. Hey, everyone was still calling because I was like, I just spent 4 years building myself as the car guy. Now I'm pivoting to real estate. And it was like a different, I thought you were the Bentley guy. You know what I mean? So I was still the car guy and I was like talking to business owners. I was like, dude, I just need to open my own car dealership. I can do this. So I left real estate after 1.5 years, went back to my same job, same desk. And this time I was like, I'm going to learn the car business. I want to know, like, can you make money selling these things used? So that's what I did. I went back for another 3 years. You talk about like overnight. I was there for 4 years, left, came back for another 3 years.
Gosh.
But this time I was like, I'm going to open a dealership. So I'm going to get all these people. So when I have a dealership, you know, I got people to call. And that was kind of my mindset.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. So over that, really 8 years, because you had a break kind of in between of the 1.5 years that you did the commercial real estate. And then you were like, okay, this is not it. I'm going to go back to being the car guy. So then going back into the car world, you built a lot of those relationships. Your buddy, who I'm assuming was your partner that you ended up opening Tactical Fleet with. How did that conversation go with, did you approach him first? Did he approach you? Like, dude, let's freaking do this.
So I took a real estate proposal that these guys used to build a building on the tollway, and it was a PDF, and I just edited it to look like a car dealership. So I changed their copy and like I changed the pictures a little bit, and it was going to be Design Auto because I saw this building in the design district. And I was like, it's going to be Design Auto. It's going to be $100,000-ish cars. I call them cheater cars. It's a Bentley for like $100,000. And the sales guy is going to look like this. The website's going to look like this. And like, it was like a marketing proposal for a car dealership. So I called up Jason and I was like, dude, I got this idea for a car dealership. And he was like, now's not the time for me. I just broke up with my girlfriend. I just moved to Nashville. I'm running some car dealerships up here. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to figure it out. So I went back to my job. And I was just watching and like I did everything I could. I watched everything people were doing. I was going to do it all by myself was my plan. And then I was like, all right. And then I'm going to pitch it to a couple car guys, right? So I was like, who could I do this with? You know what I mean? I'm not going to go to a bank and borrow a couple $1 million. You know what I mean? I'm just some guy. So I mentioned it to like 3 car guys, and I mentioned, and the guy we went down this long rabbit hole with, I was literally on a test drive with this guy. And I was like, hey, I got this idea. It's called Design Auto. And he was like, well, what'd
Wow.
you need for that? I was like 15,000 square feet and like $1 million or so. He's like, all right, let me think about that. And long story short, I go down this long rabbit hole with this guy where it goes from Design
Yeah.
Auto to like a fleet management company. We were going to manage his fleet of trucks for this company that he owned.
Hmm.
And it ended up not happening. So that's where the name Tactical Fleet came
Yeah.
from, because we were gonna be a fleet management, truck management company for a massive electric company, right? And then and it was like Shark Tank style. You go in front of the
Mm-hmm.
the lawyer and you're like, this is my presentation. This is how much money we're gonna make. And they ended up not doing it. And like Jason's like, what do we
Wow.
do, man? He's like, I'm already moving back to Dallas. I sold my place because Jason was with me the whole time for
Oh my
this.
gosh.
Because he was like the numbers guy and I was like kind of
Yeah.
the creative guy. And
Yeah.
that was like our mesh. So then I was like, just fly to Dallas. I got some other guys in mind. And then he flew in. We pitched it to 3 guys and it went from like fleet management to like kind of fleet management to the third pitch was like, it's going to be like, it's a car dealership.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, how much money would you need? We're like, 500 grand. He's like, all right, that's not bad. And the guy has millions of dollars worth of cars. So he was like, 500 grand's nothing. Right. And that's how we got going, man. We just borrowed 500 grand from a car guy that I
Yeah.
met cold calling one day through the
Yep.
CRM system. That's how I met the
Dude,
guy. Yeah.
that's
Isn't that
crazy.
crazy?
Yep. So that very first location before the one that it currently was there wasn't one before that,
No,
right?
that was it.
Okay.
That was the one
Yeah.
you were at was we'd probably just been open for like a few
Yeah, because
months.
there's a picture of you where you guys are like at like a fold up table, like
Yep.
in the because it's all indoor, like industrial big building with
Yeah,
the
we got a warehouse. So I had a checking account that said pending 500 grand, and that was it. I had no cash, I
Yep.
had no credit, and this was 2018, so the market was different. Like you would never get that building today, but we found this building, and the tenant was going out of business, and he was in a sublease of a sublease. Or I think he was the first sublease or the second
Yikes.
sublease. So he was just trying to get out. So we show up and he's like, all right, when do you guys want to move in? We're like, we'll be here on September 1st. And that's where I grabbed the folding table that was like our Thanksgiving folding table
Yeah.
and brought it down. And we just started selling cars with literally 500 grand.
That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That's wild. Just you two.
Just the two of us.
Yeah.
And we had a plan, but not really. We still didn't even know
Yeah.
what we were going to be selling. Is it Rolls
Yeah.
Royces? Is it trucks? Is it BMWs? And like, we just started going, man.
Yeah. I think a common question or some people ask or think of like, man, if knowing what you know now through of what you went through, would you go back and do it again?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But I would have gone back and like enjoyed it a little bit.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because you get so stressed out. And that's where the fitness thing comes into play,
Yeah.
knowing what I know now. But like,
Yeah.
man, we were just working and Christmas Eve. Like if you wanted to look at a car, dude, you could tell me when
Yep.
and you're buying it too,
Yeah.
by the way. So like if you have the ability to buy it, I have to sell it to you.
Yeah.
And that was like the mindset.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was like, we were pushing it really, really hard with no money. So we had to we were just juggling everything, titles and bills and, payoffs. And then like, there's little loopholes in the car business where you can kind of get cars without really having to pay for them immediately. So we're just, kind of figuring it out. Like the first car we sold was to Ezekiel Elliott, right? I had a Bentley on consignment from a guy that I'd sold a Bentley to, and he saw what I was doing. He's like, do you want to sell my Bentley? I was like, yeah, dude. It was a GTC Speed, black with white seats. And I sold it to him new when I was at the Bentley store. And he was so trusting because like our building was under construction.
Yeah.
Like our website had one car on it. Like it was a lot of trust. And then Ezekiel Elliott hits me up and he's like, you got any Bentley convertibles? This was like the next day at lunch. And I was like, I have a Bentley convertible. Yes. He goes, I was like, what color are you looking for? He's like, I'm looking for like a black one with white seats.
Dude.
I was like, you're not going to believe this, dude. I have that car. So he ends up buying it. Like he's buying it at that table and there's like construction going on. He's like, you guys are nuts, man. And like, we literally registered it. We took the title down to the tax office and we're like, hey, we need some license. We figured all that out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't define entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude.
Just
and we did all of it, man. We built our website. And we tried, and what I really wanted to do with the marketing background, I was like, I wonder if you can make a used car dealership cool. So that was like, I'm going to make it cool. So like, even if you can afford cars there, great. If not, I just want it to be like a cool place with like a WeWork type vibe and like cool Instagram. And like, we gave hats to everybody and like, we just put our logo on everything. And we had this camo look going on and there was a bar in there and it's like, it was a cool spot.
Yes. That's crazy. So you said going back, like if you could go back, you just wish you would have enjoyed it more. And I think probably like you literally said, if someone messaged you and you're like, man, I can be there in 10 minutes, you would do it. But there's so much tension and like just stress in that because that's like you just had to hustle. Right.
We were just hustling all day long. And I'll never forget, dude, it was Christmas Eve and we didn't have any banks either. So if you wanted to buy the car, you had to pay cash for it, or you had to go get your own finance because banks don't do little independent shops. They'll do like a Ford or a Toyota, but they're not doing tactical fleet in some warehouse in Addison because that's how they lose money. So like, if you didn't have cash, you had to go get your own financing, which was something we didn't really realize. But this guy comes in on Christmas Eve, and there was one bank, it's called Woodside Credit, that would do independence, but it was 144 months with 20% down at like 7.5%. So if you didn't want that, that's all I had. So this guy's like, comes in on Christmas Eve, he's going to finance it. We're like, all right, at least we got Woodside. We send it over to Woodside, and they like declined it. And we're like, oh, dude, we just both spent our whole Christmas Eve down here trying to sell this guy a car, and he can't even get approved. That's what we dealt with, dude. It was nuts.
And you like come home and hand it to the fam.
I was like, oh, did you sell it? I'm like, yeah, still working on it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, that's crazy. So, man, as you guys continue to evolve, where did, if you could say, some of that tension and stress start to? I mean, that's a loaded question. It's always there in a sense, but like, where did you feel like you kind of started to like take some bigger steps, gain some momentum?
Yeah, we started to get like a lot it's retail. So like, you know, I was calling all my people. We were blasting it all over social media. We would go to all the car shows and hand out hats, and I would mail out hats, and I'd put on Instagram, hey, if you want a hat, just DM me your address. And like all these addresses would come in. I was like, I hope this guy can afford a car. Or at least I hope his dad can, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I would send it out. And it started to get traction, but it's like a restaurant because it's like you open it and like a couple people come by and then they got to go tell people and then they got to go tell people. So it takes a while. Even if it's your best friend, like your best friend doesn't show up for 6 months or a year unless he's in the neighborhood. It's weird, man. So we had to kind of go through all that. And then people started to like really like dig the place and like, oh, I love your website. Oh, I love your social media. I saw that post. That was funny. And then like, you know, we would always kind of like, we just kept moving it down the field. Yeah. And then, we would get a little bit more cash or a little bit more line of credit from a bank. We actually got a line of credit from a bank.
Nice.
And then, it's just kind of like, it was getting momentum. And it was like, you know, you were still kind of like, all right, is this going to, well, it's going to make it or I'm going to die. It's literally like the mentality. That's kind of how I felt. So like, yeah, man, it just never, and next thing you know, like a year and a half's gone by and like, you kind of like, all right, cool. It's built. It's a brand. People know the website. It was a cool feeling for sure.
Yeah. So the total time from starting it to kind of where it is now, we'll discuss kind of some next chapter stuff. What was that timeline? How many years?
You know, so we've been open almost 7 years now.
Yeah. Wow.
A year and a half into it was getting a little dicey where our original investor kind of wanted his money back. The line of credit we had from this bank, they didn't really want to do a car dealership. We thought we had a bigger line of credit coming in, and then that deal didn't go through. So we were kind of in this like pickle about 2 years into it. Wow. And it was like, all right, this is going to be a big problem here. And then long story short, I'm calling because there's no banks. So I call Ally and I get this lady at Ally and she's like, oh, I love this dealership. We're going to finance your cars. And I was like, great. And then that didn't happen because they don't do independence. Yeah. And then one day she calls me and she's like, I got this guy who wants to do something in the exotic space. Do you mind if I give him your phone number? I was like, yeah, give him my number.
Give me his number. I'll call him.
So the guy calls me one day And it was the Driver Select guy. Do you remember Driver Select
Yeah,
on
yeah.
75? He took that, and when we were kids, it was like their business model is like they kind of sell less expensive cars. They don't make a lot of money on the car, but you finance it and you buy the warranty, and that's kind of their business model. And they sell a lot of cars. And he sold it to a company called Sonic Automotive, which it's now called Echo Park, if you've ever seen those.
Yes.
Which is, yeah, they're massive. They're
the green and
yep, those guys, all over the U.S. And he sold it to Sonic, and then he was leaving Sonic to go do something else, and he thought he wanted to do something in the exotic space. So he calls me one day as I'm driving a Ferrari to work, so I can't hear anything. And I'm like telling him about Tactical Fleet and like what we do, and it's totally the opposite of his business because like his margins are like this and ours are like that. But I have no service department. Like it's totally different. And he's like, "Are you going to be in town from like May through like September?" And I was like, "Yeah, I should be there if you want to come by." And then he comes by one day, and thank God I was there because he was like, "I'll be there in like 5 minutes one day." And I'm like, "Dude, thank God I'm sitting here right now."
Yeah.
And we go down this path where he was interested in buying us, and it wasn't really going anywhere. And then he like mentioned Sonic Auto. He's like, "You mind if I bring these Sonic Automotive guys by?" And I'm like, "Oh, Sonic Automotive." So I Google it. I was like, "Oh, you see the stock ticker on?" And I'm like, "Oh, publicly, yeah, bring them by." So long story short, Sonic ends up buying Tactical Fleet.
Wow.
About 2 years into it. And then it was, then all the stress. Well, I say that, but then all the financial stress was just gone.
Yeah.
Because, we had basically had unlimited money from there. So that's when we bought a dealership in Charlotte and turned it into Tactical Fleet, opened a store in Beverly Hills. Because my vision was like, I wanted to make it cool, but can you also put it in like other markets and will it work? Because it's not a Starbucks. You know what I mean? You can't just turn the sign on and hire some people. It's different. It's relationships. And like a lot of people get that and a lot of people don't. And we did well in Dallas because I'm from here. I got, I've been selling cars for 8 years here. I can call those people. I don't have anyone in Beverly Hills. I don't have anyone in Charlotte. Then we went coast to coast. We were the first ones to ever do that, as far as I know. I don't think anyone's ever gone coast to coast with pre-owned exotic cars. And we grew the inventory to 95 million. I don't know if anyone's ever had that much inventory before. And then we moved from 30,000 to 100,000 square foot building here in Dallas, which you've been to is like freaking.
It's epic.
Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, no, it's not a dealership. It's like a bar lounge. Like it's a place I would vibe and want to go like
totally
have a coffee or a cocktail at.
It's
and
a
like
massive
do
TV
work.
in there. It's like it's a cool vibe.
All glass. You can see into where you guys are doing the tint and the wraps, and like even in that space, it's like so clean and just. I mean, it expresses and exudes. High end, exotic, everything.
Totally.
It's preaching.
Yeah, we wanted it to be like transparent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because everyone's so skeptical of the car dealership. So like, we were like, if you walk in, we're sitting there. If you have a problem, we'll fix it for you. And that's kind of what we did. And we're just both really nice guys, like at heart. You know what I mean? Like we genuinely care about people. So like, if there's a problem, we're gonna fix it. And that was just like what we did, which is hard to do in retail now because people take advantage, man. As you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, dude, over 7 years, almost 8 within Tactical Fleet, you kind of mentioned you had the idea or the design auto has always been a name, a vision. So, man, share a little bit about that. Like, and then also, like, you've just got freaking jacked over this past year. Don't let that go to your head too much. But seriously, you're looking great. You're feeling great. Like,
Thanks,
how
man.
has all of that kind of tied into just this next wave of like excitement for your business, for your health? And what's next for Design Auto?
Yeah, so we sold it in 2020. We opened it in 18, sold it in 2020. Then we grew it and got huge. Rode the COVID train, which was like awesome for the car biz. Like you couldn't miss. And then I was kind of like hitting this point. Man, I'm 43 now, not 28 like I was when I started.
Yeah.
I was kind of just like, I wasn't eating right. I was drinking. It's a very drinking culture. You know what I mean? We had a full bar in there.
Yeah.
My health was like, I wasn't like, 500 pounds or anything. I just didn't look great and I didn't feel great.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, dude, I don't know what's coming, but like something was like, you gotta fix yourself first and then go from there.
Nice.
So, I stopped drinking, and like 10 weeks after I stopped drinking, I was like, all right, I'm going to get in shape. And I ended up finding this. I saw a guy who was a little older than me, who'd made a lot of money, sold some companies, and he got jacked in like 90 days. I was like, dude, how did you do that? He's like, you got to hit my trainer up. His name's Alan. So I call up this Alan guy who's in Canada of all places, right? And he's like, all right, do this cleanse. And I was like, you didn't, first of all, no one said anything about cleanse. So I'm like, what's this going to be? So he sends it over and it's like fruits and vegetables and you kind of watch your water intake. And I'm like, I'm doing it. If it worked for this guy, I'm doing it. I got nothing going on right now. Tactical fleet's a thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to focus on Chris Barta. So for
Nice.
the cleanse is 16 days. I went from 213 to 193. And it was like, just like that. And I didn't cheat on it. I didn't cheat on it once. And it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
First 2 days were hard because you got like the sugar addictions and stuff you got to kick and caffeine. And then the 2 days you don't get that. And then it all comes back. And then I was just weighing myself. I was like, all right, dude, we're winning right now. And then he's like, all right. I was like, so what's next? He's like, all right, I'm going to send you your workouts and I'm going to send you your meal plan. I'm like, this is where the meal plan's going to be like, track your macros and take a picture of the barcode and make sure you take, and I was like, this is where he's going to lose me 100%.
Yeah.
So I get the meal plan and it's a one sheeter. He's like, I was like, what, just eat this? He's like, eat this till I tell you to stop. He's like, body likes the repetition. I was like, okay, I can do that. And I'm like, this is where the workouts are going to be insane. You know what I mean? I'm like, is it kettle balls or bells or whatever they are? Is it, am I flipping tires? Is this like CrossFit? And the workouts were like totally middle-aged guy workouts. He's like, I don't want, he's like, these are designed so you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. Awesome. So it's like machines and stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff like you know about, but you know about it, but like Joe's not, we're not using it, you know, because in high school or college, you grab a bench press and it's how much can you bench, you know what I mean? And then Tuesdays back and by, like stuff like that. But this was like full body workouts and it was in the Trainer Eyes app. I'm sure you're familiar with that, which is a great app with the clock and everything. So like, dude, I started that in April. June, July 4th rolls around and I'm like, dude, I got abs. I got like a chest. It wasn't hard. You know what I mean? And then like added another 3 months. So 6 months into it, I was like jacked. And all I was doing was just following the plan, dude.
Yeah. And this was 2024.
This was, this was last year. This was April last year.
Yep.
And I was just like, I hit every workout. I didn't miss. I didn't derail off the diet. I didn't follow it 110%, but you know, you eat some stuff here and there. And then I was like, dude, this is it. And then my brain, then your brain comes back. It's crazy, dude. Cause you start to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was living in that like fog of like, you know, and then I started appreciating everything like vitamin D and sleep and like water and, you know, a vegetable. Cause like, I wasn't really a vegetable guy. And I was like, how important are the vegetables? Like, dude, you have to eat the vegetables. It's like the most important part. I was like, oh, I never do that. No one told me that. And then I was like, then my brain was like, all right, Chris, the body's back. You know, what can we do with everything you've learned in 15 years? So that's when I really started thinking about like, okay, tactical fleet's a thing. It's got people. It's probably okay to leave it if you want, you know. I've seen what it could do. Coast to coast, biggest car dealership ever, coast to coast, you know, super proud of that. But like, what's next? So then I really was like looking at the space and like the dealers we know and the inventory. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build a website. And I started looking at started going through our bills. And we were spending these astronomical fees to be on like Auto Trader and Car Gurus and Cars.com and Carfax and eBay. Because you have to be on them. Like, because you don't know where the guy's coming from. And some of them just Google it. So SEO is a big bill too. You know, some people are literally like Lamborghini for sale in Dallas. And that's how they find cars. Wow. So then I was just like, all right, let's look at these websites. And I started going through the websites and I was like, all right, these all came out in like the tech bubble, 99, 2000. And they're really, over time, they've been built to help like the average Joe buy like an average car. And they just they overeducate the consumer, which is great for a normal car because you don't want to overpay for, you know, if you make 50 grand a year, you want a good deal on a car. If you make $10 million a year, you don't need a good deal on a car. You just want the car. You want the car you want, or you want to find out about it. So then I came up with Design Auto, which goes back to the design thing, which was going to be in the design district. And it was just going to be a website for cars 100 grand and up. And I'm just going to delete all the stuff. So there's no like negative. And my mindset is like, as a dealer, we spend so much money to advertise on these platforms, but they don't help us. They're just like they help the shopper, but they don't help the dealer.
Yes.
So it's like, I'm going to help the dealer sell more cars.
Mm.
I'm going to make it easier for the dealer. So like, I'm going to delete all the stuff. There's no negative reviews. So like, you know, hey, I only got one key. Chris Barta sucks, 1 star. And then like that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? It's like, all I'm trying to do is help. And you give me one, that kind of stuff. And then like a lot of them will do like these price drop alerts, right? So like you go in there and I'm like, you can see I just dropped the SVJ 20 grand. You think you're going to call and pay that price? Or you're going to offer another 20 grand off from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like the pictures aren't great. And then there's just so much stuff, like written word, like it's got seat belts. It's got, 4 seat, like that. No one cares. Right. Yep. And then the other thing that was really bothering me, and I've always been the sales guy, even after like it was as big as it was, dude, I would, if you came in the door, I was going to help you. If you called in, I was going to answer it. If you sent an email, I was going to respond to it. And like what I learned through that process is like, it's a lot of repetitive, same question over and over. I'm sure you get it at the gym. I know you do. Because I see it even at the fitness thing. People are like, what kind of protein do you take? You answer, dude, what's isolate? That kind of stuff. What brand should I buy? So then I was like, all right, like the phone rings and the guy has like a simple onesie twosie question. Like, how many keys does it have? Do you have the window sticker? Is that the factory paint or is that a rep? Those, they're not like questions he can find on the internet. And then I'm like, yes, here's the window sticker. And then like someone sends an email. Do you have the window sticker? And I send, what I mean? So you play that game. So I was like, all right, this car is 100 grand and up. There's no fluff on there. And then the communication process is all on this website. So if you had a question about a car, you can write it in the comments. So if you're like, what year are the tires? You can put it in the comments and the sales guy can be like, they're from this year. So when the next guy comes in, he can be like, I was going to ask that question. It's already answered there.
I'm sure maybe even with like AI and technology now, like they could type in a question and then it would already show that it's been answered.
Yep,
and they could
cool.
see.
That's the plan is the AI stuff's going to be in there. So then you can also chat with the sales guy. So if you're like, hey, can you send me everyone wants a video for some reason. Can you send me a walk around video? He can go out like you can on Instagram. You can go take the video and you can send it to the guy. And then that way the guy also knows what car he's talking about. And so does the sales guy. Cause you get so many leads, like they get confused about which car they're talking about. So the cars up here, almost like on Facebook, I'm kind of meshing them all together. Facebook Marketplace, Instagram, you can like a photo, but if you want to do any of that stuff, you have to sign up, right? And put your profile picture in there and give us a little information so that like, some kid out of high school who's just playing on the internet is not encouraged to be doing all that stuff. So theoretically it'll be better leads with better response time. Is kind of the plan.
Man, so that's a lot, but also it makes total sense. And I mean, you're just being an entrepreneur, you see a problem, you're going to try to add a solution and to solve the problem. So what's it looking like on the launch of the Design Auto?
It should be like online next week. Okay. I got like 5 dealers ready to go.
It's amazing.
I shot my social media content yesterday, which is going to be, wait till you see this, dude. You're going to be like, holy cow, this is a real ad for a dealership. Click.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. So, and it's going back to like, and I'm also going to do, cause it's just me, right? It's just Chris Barta this time. There's no business partner. There's no other company.
Wow.
So like all the stuff I ever wanted to do, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So like, I was on Bradley's podcast last Thursday.
Saw that. Crazy.
Which was cause he's a car guy.
Did that episode come out yet?
That'll be out probably next week.
Okay.
I'm trying to tie it all together. So it all comes out at the same time.
Yep.
And then, so on this website, I'm a big social media guy. I know you are too. There's going to be like an internal social media platform for car dealers. Cause like you were saying, when I sat down, you guys do really cool content.
Super cool.
And I can only post it on Instagram, maybe YouTube, maybe Facebook. And that's like it. And then it goes into the abyss of like, it's competing against, your algorithm.
Yep.
So hopefully you see it because you follow Tactical Fleet. You might not though. And maybe I spent all this time and money on this video and you never even saw it. But they can also post it in here. So when you're tooling around, you're like, that's a cool video. What's Tactical Fleet? Oh shit, they got $50 million worth of cars. Oh, look, there's a Ferrari. I was actually, that kind of stuff. Keep you on like the wheelhouse. And that's kind of the plan. So and then all this kind of stuff I'm going to put on there. So like,
you're practically making almost like a car patron, social media, dealer, consumer platform.
I want it to be
experience.
I want it to be when you think of a car 100 grand and up, that's where you go. to get your news, to look for cars,
Yeah.
to like, if you have a question, there's chats on there. So if you're like, what's the horsepower on a McLaren 720? Instead of asking the sales guy, just put in the chat GDP will be like, it's everything you know. And you can even on chat, you can be like, what's the difference between a 458 and a 488? And it'll tell you, you know, better than a sales guy could.
Yep.
It's just the little, like, you still need the sales guy because you still need the, well, what do you think? You know what I mean?
Of course.
Because you need that. You
the
need
relational
that. You need
component.
that. Yeah. I'm 6'4". Should I get an event store? You're not going to fit in it. Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yep.
You're not, or like you kind of meet somebody, same with working out, and you're like, yeah, you're not going to like that car. Really? Because I know it looks cool, but you're going to hate driving that car. Just from talking with you, I can tell. Stuff like that.
Wow.
So yeah, that's the plan.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, yeah, we're at the end of February right now, going into March next week. This episode is going to be launching right during that same time frame of when the Design Auto is going to be launching out. So is it designauto.com?
Designauto.com is where you go. Yep. And then it'll be all over my social platform, CP Barta, Instagram. My TikTok's pretty good, CP Barta at TikTok. My YouTube's weak, but it's CP Barta. And then I'm going to start kind of interviewing dealers, talking to car guys. So I'm talking to, do you know who Wes Watson is?
I think so.
Look that one up, dude.
Okay.
You have to look that one up if you're in the gym space.
Yeah.
He does the programs, right?
Okay.
But he also has a Bugatti. He's had everything, Bugatti, and he's in Miami. He's a huge, tatted up guy. But I'm going to go talk to him about his cars, and then he's taken to his local car dealership, which is going to be on my platform too. And then we're going to kind of tour there. So it kind of helps everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like what I really want is to help the dealer sell more cars. And then I also want you to find cars and find dealers you normally probably wouldn't have found.
Yes.
Because like on the other ones, you start scrolling around and it's like, all right, these are the ads. Okay, that's not even what I was searching for. Let me scroll past that. Here's another ad for a car that's totally irrelevant. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't want any of that.
Yeah. Well, man, I think like I said at the beginning, like you have continued to kind of disrupt the market, the industry in ways that aren't normally conventional, and kind of in the same way you're doing it again, and you're just like, I mean, you're being a relational piece and just connector and puzzle piece put together.
Yeah, that's what it is, concept.
Man. But you're also having fun with it. You're creating content. You're creating a platform where buyers, sellers, dealers, enthusiasts, like young, old, can come, and you're creating just like a hub of a place where people can enjoy a community and a hobby that they're passionate about.
100%.
And that's something that you've evolved and have refined and are continuing to refine through your 15 years and, Lord willing, 20,000 more, throughout your entrepreneurial journey. So that's super cool.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm pumped. You kind of already said like where we could find you on social media with your YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, the designauto.com. You've got a lot of super cool content coming out over the next couple weeks.
Yep.
With the launch of it, the podcast, obviously this one will be collaborating, obviously, if you want to, with some of the reels from our conversation.
Love to.
And then this platform will be able to be found, this podcast will be able to be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, and then, of course, on Instagram as well. But any last concluding pieces that you've got?
Man, first things first is your health, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know where anyone is in life. Fix that first. If you got your head on straight and your body straight and the food intake's good, dude, you can do anything you want. That's what I didn't do. Back to the I wish I would have enjoyed it more. Like I couldn't enjoy it because it was just like I was so worried about money and this and that and like that you forget like, dude, if you get sick, it's all gone. You know what I mean? And and what I've also found from the fitness thing is, I'm sure you see it too, is like most of these people are like 90 days to like 180 days away from where they really need to be. Yeah. It's not long. It's not 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's health, wealth, your family.
Yeah.
Pursue your passion. If you have an idea, go just try it.
Yeah.
Go get it. Like Bradley was like, what happens if this fails? I was like, we'll just pivot, man. Maybe it's design houses next. You know what I mean? Maybe it's design custom gyms. I'll help you with that.
Let's go. We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, seriously, taking care of yourself, enjoy the process. And that's even as I've been on this journey, like looking around, like there's there's too many great people, family, friends around me that won't let me fail. Like if I try to quit, they're gonna like kick me in the butt and say, get back up.
Yeah.
Then also B, like just that drive inside of like, man, we might fail, we might succeed, but like no matter what, we're gonna continue to figure it out.
Yeah.
And just taking that drive and then trying to enjoy the process. It's like, man, it's you don't want to say it's nothing's impossible, but it makes it pretty dang tangible
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
So
And let go of the ego too.
yeah.
Don't be scared. Whatever. Hop on a podcast, post
Yeah.
that. It's the video that you didn't even want to post that gets all the views. You're like, I
Mhm.
thought that was dumb. And everyone's like,
Yeah.
it's got 1.4 million views. I didn't
Yeah.
want to post that. And it's like,
Yes.
just post it, man.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, so when I started getting in shape, I was like, I'm going to post myself at the gym every day. So when I do get in shape, I don't get that, well, you're taking TRT or you're on steroid.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, because I'll be like, did you not see me posting for the last 300 days?
Yep.
And then like these guys will hit me up and be like, dude, I've lost 20 pounds because of you. Because I see you at the gym. So I go to the gym. I'm like, I didn't even know you were following me, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, I get those little things. I'm like, that's really cool, man. It's just cool to see other people like trying stuff and, putting themselves out there. It's like, you only got one life, man. We all know that. And it's like, it's shorter than it should be. So
yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you. If you guys ever get to meet Chris, you can see his authentic, just true personality here that you're seeing is also how he is in person. And obviously that's been a reflection of just our relationship going on over these past couple of years. So make sure to check us out. Make sure to go see and follow Chris along this exciting new journey with the Design Auto. And thank you guys for listening to this podcast. We'll see you next time.